Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We're ready to begin the fourth session of the Build a Better Business series with Ms. Benita Rice. This is the last session, so do chime in with all your chat questions. And as always, she'll be happy to answer those. But for tonight, we're going to go ahead and begin with the Prevent Your Business from Becoming a Ball and Chain, identifying and implementing systems that works. So thanks for joining in, and Miss Benita Rice.
Thank you very much, Ms. Michelle Henry. Good evening, everyone. And yes, today is the last and final evening of this wonderful series, Building a Better Business. And today we are going to talk about how to strengthen your company, how to give your company some independence so that you can have room to breathe and prevent your company from just becoming a weight and another burden that you've taken on. So today I'm going to start by asking, why did you start your business? Which one of these reasons here resonates with you? Did you start your business to leave a legacy for your family? Did you start a business because you wanted to be finally free of your 9 to 5? Did you start your business because your earnings would be yours to grow and keep? Maybe you thought you wanted to work wherever you wanted to work, so starting a business was a wonderful idea. Or perhaps success is at the door and you just wanted to go for it. Or you could be like most people, tired of the drama. Whatever the reasons you start your business, a lot of times people find that once they get involved in the business, that it just becomes a little bit more weary and a little bit more work than they expected. So the reality of life is that only 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open. Well, I said only, but then I could say 20% of all new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open. It just depends on how you look at it. Sort of like a glass half full, glass half empty sort of scenario. But when you look at it, you say, okay, 65% of business fail during the first 10 years and 45% during the first 5 years. This is some scary statistics. I got it from Investopedia.com. I love Investopedia, but I got it from Investopedia and I've seen it elsewhere. The fact remains that a lot of businesses are failing within the first 10 years. That means 10 years of your life has just went down the toilet. And my goal here today is to at least give you the foundation as to how to keep your business going. One of the things I want to point out is that, Kenneth, if you don't mind, type in your answer into the chat. I will respond to you as soon as we get through a little bit more. Okay, so one of the things I'd like to point out is that business don't fail. People do. A business is just an entity. A business has no pain. It doesn't feel anything. But the people really do feel the pain when a business fails. And the number one reasons why business fail is because of lack of financing. Another reason is inadequate management. Over the last 3 weeks, we stressed a lot on having proper human resource in place. We stressed that this was a very vital component of a business success. Another reason a company fails is because of ineffective business planning. When we talk about planning, people always think we're just talking about the business plan. But as we go through the remaining portion of this evening, I'm going to show you that there's so many different plans that you need to put in place to ensure the success of your business. Another reason why companies fail is because ineffective marketing strategy. They have not identified the correct strategy for their business. And so they sort of apply to their business whatever is popular. We have the funnel system, we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have so many choices these days. It's so much more different than when all we had was just a newspaper and a radio. But all of these things are essential for us to understand so that we can avoid the failure of a business. I call it sudden business death syndrome. It actually happens within the first 2 years. And a lot of times you don't see it coming because you're so deep into your business that you don't really see that your business is dying until you just shut your doors one day. And trust me, nobody else sees it coming anyway. So it's a surprise to you and a surprise to your community and your clients as well. So what are some of the factors that cause a business to fail? Well, assuming that you can work in your business and manage it effectively is one of the biggest factors. A lot of times, as an entrepreneur, you start a business and you are the cook, you are the bottle washer, you are the receptionist and the cashier, and you are the janitor. Well, a business cannot grow if you are so deeply embedded into all functions of regarding the maintenance of your business that you cannot innovate. And we're going to talk about innovation a little bit later. So that's one of the reasons why businesses fail. Another reason is that they failed to create a business plan, or they created a business plan. It looks wonderful. They had it reviewed. Everybody said, hey, it's nice. And then they put it in the drawer and they never look at it again. So it's not just creating the business plan, but failing to follow the business plan. And so when you create a business plan, your job is you have already taken the time to outline the steps that your business is going to take to achieve growth. Well, if you take the business plan and put it into the drawer and never use it to execute on your business, that's going to be one of the reasons why your business fail. Another reason business fail is that the product, they did not identify, not just in identifying the product, but the correct marketing channels for that product, or identify the demand cycles for that product. Sometimes we assume just because something is selling and is popular that it will always be popular, and that is not true. We can look at Toys for Us. Toys for Us built a successful company based upon the fact that there'll always be a demand. But guess what? There's not always a demand. There's slow periods and there's a hype period. And those hyper periods for them are Christmas and Thanksgiving. And so over a period of time, Toys for Us did go out of business because there wasn't a 365-day demand for their products. Number one. Number two, I don't have it on here. Another reason a company fails is because they're not paying attention to the trend. They're not paying attention to being innovative or seeing what new innovations are coming out. And so because they're not staying ahead of the market, they weren't able to capture, plan, or capture the fact that something new is coming out, so that they needed to jump on it and become innovative and be first to the market. So that's another reason. One of the principal things that I notice is that a lot of people neglect the SWOT analysis. The SWOT, SWOT analysis, is such a major component of your business growth. It will tell you what your competitors are doing. It's going to tell you how to protect yourself against your competitors. It will tell you how to go against your competitors. The SWOT is important. It's called SWOT for a reason. It's strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. S is for strength, W is for weakness, O is for opportunity, and T is for threat. It also sounds like SWOT, like you want to swat a fly. Well, you can use a SWOT analysis and SWOT another business down by simply studying that company, what they're doing well, what they're not good at, what other people are providing that they're not providing, what you're not providing. That's your weakness. So once you start to examine all the different companies that are similar to you, and you start identifying the things that they're not good at, what they're strong at, what it will tell you what type of opportunities exist, and it will tell you what type of threat exists to your business. Another thing we have to look at the demographics, your customer demographics. Where are you located? Depending upon what you're selling, you need to study your demographic, the population that you're opening the business, and you may have to adjust accordingly. I was listening to Magic Johnson the other day. Yes, Magic Johnson, and he was saying that when he started inner city entertainment, he had to really not just study the fact that his businesses were going to be located in inner city neighborhoods. He had to decide what was the best offerings for those areas so that he can be successful. And when Starbucks came on board, they didn't want to really invest in certain communities. And so Magic came on and he said, listen, I want to buy some Starbucks. Let's just try it. Let me buy several of your franchises and I'm going to set them up. And so when he set them up, he changed the menu, he changed the music, he changed a lot of the layout of the Starbucks, made it all more hip. And his Starbucks was one of the highest grossing. He had several, and they were the highest grossing Starbucks because of the fact that he took the time to understand his demographics. You're gonna have to do that. Some of you are gonna buy into franchises. Some of you are gonna be innovative enough to create a product and you wanna sell it. No one product is only good for one area. So you have to decide how can you situate your product? How can you adapt your service so that when you go to take it to another location, that it is something that your advertising, your marketing, your product line will appeal to those people within that demographic. So those are one of the reasons why companies fail. People do not acknowledge that different location requires different types of attention and different types of actions. Finally, and that's not all of it, but the final reason why that I've listed why business fail is because companies fail to numerically define their business activity. They're not creating sales goals on a daily basis. They're creating sales goals in dollars and cents for a whole year. When they project on a monthly basis in dollars and cents. They don't project in units. What I mean by that is if you're running a restaurant, when you're projecting, you're supposed to set an expectation. I want to sell 50 plates of meals today for lunch. I expect to sell 25 plates of meals for breakfast, and I expect to sell maybe 60 plates or 70 plates for dinner. You have to put sales, you have to put your sales in quantity being sold, not just in total dollar value. Then you have to break it down into daily sales, weekly, monthly, annual goals. All of these are just quantities. I'm not even talking about the dollar value of that sale. I'm just saying quantities. When you break your sales down into quantities rather than dollar value, it tells you what you need to do to meet those goals. If you leave it at dollar value, you kind of get lost. But if you make it into a number of plates, or number of wood, or number of bricks, or number of houses I'm going to build within 12 months time. If I say I'm going to build 12 houses in 12 months, that means I should be trying to obtain at least 2 to 3 houses each month. Sometimes I'll meet my goal, sometimes I won't. But if you don't do these things, you are subjecting your company to failure. So that's why I call them the failure factors. These are the factors that causes your business to fail. And I'm sharing them with you so that you can adjust and apply them to your existing strategy moving forward. We just talked about projections, and I said you have to quantify them. But I wanted to show you what a projection statement looks like. A lot of times when we talk about projections, we focus on the income statement, sales, and revenues. Nobody ever really talked much about the impact of the cash flow coming in. Balance sheet, nobody talks about the receivable. Those are all things that impacts your revenue, your cash flow, your ability to stay afloat, your ability to pay the bills. If you joined any of our previous classes, you know that I've spoken several times about being able to pay your bills and identifying the ratios that will tell you whether or not your current cash flow is enough to cover your debt, or identifying how quickly you're burning through your personal cash instead of leaning towards credit. So if you, from the other classes, and you can go back and look at the other videos because I cover it. Here I'm covering a projection, meaning it's a future. And in this future plan, as you can see, they started out in 2006 with a net sale of 43,300. And they're saying that within 5 years, they hope to double that. So what you're seeing is the incremental changes over the years. But I would add to this another column in between each of those years. And in those columns, I would have the net sales at a quantity, at a number of sale items that I needed to sell in order to meet those goals. Or you can create a total different spreadsheet where all you address is just the quantity of the sales, the quantity of the number of goods you expect to have sold in the year, the quantity of goods that you're going to carry forward. There's a lot of things that you can learn by studying quantities. Again, like I said, begin with weekly goals. Quantify not just revenue but your activity. What do you have to do to sell those goals, to make a sale? That's very important. What do you have to do to make a sale? How often do you have to do it? If you're selling a service and you want to sell 10 services a week, you might have to knock on 30 doors just to sell 10 services a week. So when you begin to quantify and study the actual results against your activity, you begin to learn more about your business, and you learn how to adapt and make changes so that your business can be profitable, so that you're taking the right actions. Okay, so your revenue should also include your projection should always include an employee count. And I say that because you need to keep track of how many employees you have, how many employees is needed on a daily basis, and you need to also track the cost of that employee from the very first day you open your door. You are an employee. You have to track the cost of that employee from day zero so that you can project out your costs and know whether or not you are staying on track to making the amount of revenue you need to cover your cost. I'm hoping that that's clear to you. But if you have any questions, again, please post them in the chat and I will answer them. So I created several action steps. And forgive me for saying so, it's a Caribbean thing. So I always keep saying so, that's my word. So I've created several different action steps to help you to grow your business so that it can stop being a ball and chain. And one of them is that you need to obtain a line of credit immediately. Like literally, if you're planning on starting a business, you need to start establishing business credit. However, you need to open a line of credit. I don't care if they give you $5,000, $1,000, $10,000. It makes such a big difference. Because when you have a line of credit, you're using other people's money. A lot of people come into their business and they say, okay, I got $50,000. I'm going to invest in this $50,000. It's going to pay my salary. It's going to pay my rent. It's going to pay this, is going to pay that. You're going to be amazed at how quickly you go through that cash. That's the burning of the money. When I talk about burn rate, we're talking about how quickly you're going through that money. So we have to come with the mindset that, hey, we cannot be in business and grow this business into self-sufficiency if we are funding it at its very beginning. So you have to go after OPM, other people's money. That's what the rich do. When you see companies start up and they go out and you see them just appear on the stock exchange and you're like, wow, how did they get there? They just started 2-3 years ago. That's because they had a wonderful idea. They were innovative. They took that idea to a bunch of people who was listening and willing to provide investment because they saw the viability of the product. They got equity stakes, they got investments, they got shares, they got all these different things that they offer to all these different people who love their product, and all of their sweat equity is into this business, and this is what helps them to grow without going bankrupt. This is what helps a company to grow without growing bankrupt. You get a line of credit. I didn't talk about the equity because I didn't want to take it to that level, but you can sell shares. You can give people passive ownership in your business, maybe in exchange for them to be able to give you advice or to help offset some of your costs or to help you get additional debt financing. But the first action step you're supposed to take is to obtain a line of credit immediately. Why immediately? Because when you start messing up your credit, nobody's going to give you a loan. Now let me explain the difference between a line of credit and a loan. They're both loans, but when people talk about money, you have to be specific as to what terminology you use. So a line of credit is an approval for you to be able to spend within a certain dollar amount. It's not going to go away once you pay it off if you're paying it off on time. If your dollar amount is 5,000 and you used 1,000 this month, and you paid $500 down on it, you'll have $4,500 left. If you used 1,000 and you paid $1,000, you'll still have $5,000 left that you could use to buy to purchase your inventory, to pay your lease, to make payroll. That's why you want that line of credit, because you don't have to keep going back into the bank and asking for a loan. Contrast that to a loan. When you go to the bank and ask for a loan and you tell them you'd like $10,000 and they give you a loan for $10,000, when you pay that $10,000 off, the bank say, thank you so much, you've been a wonderful customer, it's been great doing business with you. You cannot go back and utilize any portion of that $10,000. Once you pay for it, it's over. If you're paying it down, you can't bring it back up. It's just a fixed loan. And so I want you to understand the difference between a line of credit and a loan so that you can make a better decision. I've heard people say they want a loan so that they can meet payroll. That's the worst thing to do. Get a line of credit to meet payroll, not a regular loan. So let's look at this chart right here. You have a line of credit. The reason why you want it, because it has a lower interest cost when compared to a credit card. A lot of us use the credit cards for everything we want to say we're going to pay back, but that comes at a high interest rate, anything from 12% to 21%. And if you take the compound ratio into effect, it's much higher than that. When you have a line of credit, it provides the flexibility to help you deal with your cash flow problems. If you use it responsibly, you'll have access to the authorized amount even if you paid it off. And look, do not use it to purchase any type of fixed asset or long-term asset. What am I talking about when I say fixed asset and long-term asset? I'm talking about desks, chairs, trucks, refrigerator, doing improvements to your new office space. That is not what a line of credit's for. That's what a loan is for, but not or leasehold agreement is for, but it's definitely not for a line of credit. A line of credit is supposed to be used to just cover you on short-term expenses. All right, so I've already introduced assets. So action 2 is that you're going to finance all of your asset purchases with a loan. Okay, finance it means you're going to go get a loan, not a line of credit. You can build a building, you can get a car, you can have more inventory, you can do a whole lot of stuff. You can do a build out inside of a building that you're renting. Here's the critical thing about when you're in business. When you're in business and you go rent an office space, most office space gives you the ability to make adjustments to them. That comes out of your pocket. And when you leave, you have to leave that office space the way you left it. If you put a fan in the ceiling, you have to leave the fan in the ceiling. If you didn't have AC and you stuck an AC into the wall, you got to leave the AC there. Whatever you do to that building, you have to leave it there. So your homework is that you need to go and understand what a leasehold transaction is. Because a leasehold transaction is another sort of financing, but it benefits you in the sense that your costs that you incur making changes to a building or renting certain types of building, they're not just considered expenses, they're considered an asset to some extent. And so you need to understand those transactions so that you can determine when is the best time to use it. This goes back to day one of our presentation, where I said get you a good accountant, a great accountant. Now I'm going to add one more to it. I want you to know someone who does real estate, commercial real estate, because they will also be able to guide you if you're trying to build or buy or rent a property. They can guide you so that you can make the best decisions that's going to work for you when it comes to preparing your taxes or going after a loan. Action number 3. Again, I've talked about human resource for so many times, and it's about staffing. Here's what I want you to know. Depending on how many staff you have in your business, that's going to determine the quality of your service, or it's going to determine the increased expense you have having too many staff, or it's going to determine whether or not you can execute properly on an idea or innovation. It's going to determine whether or not your customers are waiting for a long time just to get served. Depending on the number of staff you have, it's going to impact your company. It's going to impact your company's employee morale. Is going to impact the customer who is coming there, because they want to get really good and expedient services, and if that's not coming, they're not happy. They're going to tell everybody how slow you are. It's just really going to affect you. So action number 3 is obtain adequate staffing and management. As the owner of your business, you started this business because you had a great idea. Once you start getting bogged down into the day-to-day processes and actions involved in your business, you start losing the innovative qualities that you have, and then you just become simply a worker, a laborer. You're so focused on each daily task that you're no longer making adjustments to help your business grow. You have to hire employees. That's the point I'm trying to make. You have to hire employees. I don't want you to hire too much, and it's not good for you to hire too little. Okay, so you have to hire, and you have to gauge how each hire is adding value to your company. Does that hire add value because they are quick at cleaning up the space and making it look nice? Are they coming up with suggestions? Are they greeting your customers as they walk in? Are they making the people feel welcome? How many customers are coming to your entity? How many of them are waiting? As a manager, if you're the one that's serving everybody, you're going through a panic attack. You have this rush of blood flow going through your head because you're worried about not serving everybody, but you're not paying attention to the quality of service that you're delivering. So staffing level affects many aspects of your business: customer service and response time, the quality of your product, and again I duplicated that, but the quality of your product and service, that's what it's supposed to be: quality of product and service, the quality of your delivery, installation, ability to monitor key metrics. If you are not staffing properly, you are not looking around to see what is it you need to measure so that you can improve the services that your business provide. And again, employees do drive up your overhead. If you're in a business that build for say installation of AC, that's what you do. You put in ACs all day long. The person sitting in your office is an employee that's going to drive up your overhead. However, you have the ability to manage that overhead and to manage that employee so that they are providing value to your business. If you as a manager is deeply embedded in your business, you will not take the time to make sure that that employee is adding value to your business. So let's talk about action number 4. And again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat. I don't want you to forget. I will definitely address the questions that you have. Okay, so action number four is not having a clearly defined business strategy. Having a clearly defined business strategy is very, very important. It's important because it's going to provide the guidelines by which you're going to do business. It's going to tell you what your next step should be. It's going to keep you focused. A business strategy is going to keep you focused. What is a business strategy? It's the actions and decisions that must be made to reach a business goal so that you can be competitive. Your strategy is going to change from time to time. It's not fixed in stone, it's not cement. You have to look at it maybe over 30 days, over 60 days, over 90 days. You don't want to be too hasty and just change it willy nilly, but you do want to review your strategies, the strategy that you have implemented. You do want to review the outcome of those strategies, and determine whether or not your strategy has a trend. We talk about trend analysis. Whether or not it's growing, if it's growing, or the changes over time is causing your company to grow or decline. Whatever it is, the strategy you have, you must be able to have one so that you can take actions, so that you can know whether or not it's working. You just have to have a strategy. You can't just get up every day and show up and not have any kind of direction. When it is written down, it's the best way to know whether or not your goals are being met, because when you write it down, you're going to write down the goals. You're going to make an outline of what the company needs to reach those goals. It's going to determine your hiring decision. You may start a business and say, okay, I'm going to add one employee on day one. I'm going to check and say, when I say check up, I mean I'm going to review the activities in my business to determine when I need to hire a second employee. I may have projected that I hired a second employee in month 6, but instead things ramped up so fast. I had to, by me looking at my metrics and seeing how my sales are increasing, that means I need to go hire another employee. If you don't have a strategy, if you're not tracking, let's go back here. If you're not tracking, I'm sorry, I'm pressing the wrong thing. If you don't have a strategy, if you're not studying your metrics, go right back here to this plan. We talk about failure factors. If you have not clearly defined numerically your sales goal, that's a strategy. If you haven't done any of that, when you get to the point where you need to make adjustments, you won't be ready. So business strategy is the action decision that must be made to reach the business goal and be competitive. It must be written. It must define the goal. It must outline between each goal. It must have an outline as to what steps you have to take to reach that goal. And it will also guide your decision-making process for acquiring maybe new hires, maybe new inventory, maybe new assets, maybe maybe a new building. So it's going to guide your decision-making process on how best to allocate your resources. So let's talk about defining your strategy. Most people start with a business plan, and that is really a good way to start, because once you start with a business plan, you have a really clear outline of what you need to do. I'm going to share a secret with you in case you didn't know it. The executive plan, which is usually on the first page, is really the last part of the business plan that you write, because the executive plan is a summary of all the different sections in your business plan. So let's look at the different types of plans you have. You may have a business plan. You may need to get with a strategic advisor so you can create a strategic plan. A strategic plan is going to tell you how you're going to execute the various items that you listed in your business plan. How are you going to execute it? You plan on expanding from Baton Rouge to Dallas. How are you going to execute it? So that's going to be all part of your strategic plan. Your marketing plan is going to address the demographics of the customers that you are selling to. It's going to address the needs of those customers. It's going to counter with how are you going to identify the best way to meet those customers. How am I going to increase sales? What adaptations do I have to make to my product line, if I'm in on the west end versus in Little Village? Those are different towns where people have different demographics. Maybe that's not important. Maybe it doesn't matter what's the demographic of the people there. It could be income level. So now you have to understand what's the income level of the people that you're serving. If those people are high end earners, then you have to bring high end products because that's what they're looking for. And if you're not bringing those products, they're gonna go somewhere else to get them. Another part of your strategy is defining the staffing plan. I mentioned that earlier. That I said to you that when you first start your business, you have one employee, and then in your plan you say, okay, when I get to $40,000 or $60,000, I'm going to bring on a part-time employee. That's your staffing plan. How are you going to bring human assets into your business to help you control your business, serve your customers, meet these expectations? All of that is going to flow into your growth plan. Your growth plan is going to have all those things in there because it's going to address your strategy for growing your business. You have to come up with a strategy as to how you're going to get from $100,000 to $200,000 or from $1 million to $2 million. It's not enough for you to just say, here's the numbers that I'm planning on making. The strategy is how are you going to make those numbers. And another thing you have to look at is a cash flow projection. We talked about cash flow projection. And remember, we talked about cash flow from financing, cash flow from investment, and cash flow from operations. So when you do your cash flow projections, you're looking at where your source of your money is coming from and how you're going to spend it. All that should be part of your strategy because at some point in time, you're going to look over what you put on paper and look at what you've actually done to determine whether or not your strategy worked or whether or not you strayed away from your strategy. You're going to use it to determine whether or not you need to adjust. You have to make adjustment. That's one of the reasons for reviewing. Another part of your strategy is your financing plan. Where are you going to get your money from? How are you going to finance the operations of your business? That's a very critical question to answer. And my suggestion to you earlier was deal with it heads on. First thing first, line of credit. If you have to open commercial lines with your suppliers so that you can have some time to recuperate some revenues before you can pay them, then you do it. That's all part of your financing plan. Talk about how you're going to finance the building, how you're going to finance the expenses associated with the office that you're in, electricity, water, leasehold improvement, build out, which is also build out. Financing plan is going to address how you're going to meet salaries. A financing plan should address how you're going to build your customers, what kind of interest rate you're going to charge your customers. Don't just put that interest rate on the invoice. Make sure you enforce it so you can get paid. Otherwise, you're giving people a free loan, and you don't want to do that. Then you talk about resource planning. There's so many other resources that you're going to have besides your employees and besides the things that you have. Some of the resources might be your CPA. Another one might be a strategic advisor. Sometimes we need mentors. We like to call them mentors. Quite frankly, I feel as though if you call them mentors, you don't expect to pay them. So call them advisors because they expect to be paid. You may want to hire a business plan. A business plan is going to help you put everything into place so that you can execute properly. Finally, you're going to have to define your strategy about inventory. How are you going to obtain your inventory? You're going to go out and buy a whole warehouse full of inventory, or are you going to implement the just-in-time inventory system? Just-in-time inventory system simply means you only hire what you need for this week or for this month. You don't go out and buy a whole year worth of supply or 3 months worth of supply. You have a system set up that when you're running low, it alerts the vendor calls to confirm or emails to confirm that you need to replenish your stock, and yet when you agree to it, they bring that extra just to keep you going for a while. That's a just-in-time inventory system. It's a wonderful system to implement. It's a wonderful system to implement if you're going to have inventory, because inventory is like, remember we talked about your accounts, your asset turnover. Well, inventory was the one thing that you could not include in that. You don't want to have a whole lot of assets sitting, because that's when you have to have a sale or giveaway or donation to one of the charitable institutions. So identify and define what your strategy looks like. Be sure to address each of these 9 things here in your strategic plan. They're all different plans that you're going to put together. And whatever you do, do not put it in your drawer. Do not set it and forget it, or sit it and forget it. Whenever I do a session, I like to introduce people to a book that I thought was dynamic, something that I've read, something that I think that will help them. I don't get any kickbacks. I don't get any commission for introducing this book. But this was a book that really changed and gave me clarity when I was trying to question some things about my upbringing, my associates' upbringing, decisions that we did not make. And if you were on the first class, you would have heard me say that me and my friends, we all grew up as part of in families that were business owners. That's all they knew. They owned business. They dealt with the trials and tribulations of business, and their business was successful. My dad's business was successful. My uncles, the different people in my hometown, they that had businesses, they were successful. And I remember years later looking back and saying to myself, none of us are in our parents' business. None of us. We all went and got jobs. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But we all went and got jobs. We wanted to know how to do something other than what our parents did. I thought a lot about the trials that my father went through, because he actually would sit and speak to us. I joked with my best friend, and I told her, I tell all the time, friend, we did not have a dining room table. We had a board table with boardroom chairs. We had a boardroom table with boardroom chairs. When you sit in them, you can swing around on them. They can roll and get you to where you have to go. But we literally had an oval boardroom table in our dining room. That's where my dad called us to sit and talk to us about what's going on in the business late at night when he closed his business down. And I thought about it when I listened to everything that he was saying, and as I reflected back on my childhood growing up, on my teenage years, or even my adult years, because I still worked in his business even after that. When I had a job, I still worked in his business then. But when I thought about it, I thought about the fact that what got to me and them was the fact that we heard the struggles, not so much the reward. We heard the struggles. But when I look, I said, well, I'm grateful for the struggles. I'm grateful for the knowledge that I got sitting in the presence of my parents, learning about business management, learning about accounting, and balancing a bank statement, all these different things. I thought about it. I was like, wow, that was some phenomenal knowledge. And so I had went into Barnes and Nobles. I lived in Hyde Park, and I loved to walk around Hyde Park, and they had this huge Barnes and Noble, and I love books, and I went into Barnes and Nobles, and I was just looking through the book, and I came across this book called The E-Myth Solution. And I wasn't in a hurry, so I sat down in the reading area, got comfortable, and I read about 3 or 4 chapters of this book that afternoon. It totally blew me away. It totally changed my mind. And it totally drove me to wanting to help small businesses. Because at this point in my life, I had done nothing else but work for larger companies. I worked for governments, but I did not work for any small businesses. So the tools that I learned working for large companies and Fortune 500 companies, those tools that I learned was all about monitoring the metrics, the same metrics that I told you about, developing systems. I had to do that. Just a bunch of stuff, monitoring everything, looking at contracts, all these things I learned. And this book made me put 2 and 2 together. This is what small businesses are missing. They are missing what I'm telling you about. They're missing understanding financial statement. They're missing knowing how to use it to know whether or not their business is successful, whether or not it's progressing. They are not understanding that it's more than just putting a dollar value. You have to put quantities. It's more than just looking at your financial statement at the end of the year. It's about looking at it every single month and comparing it month and month, quarter and quarter, year and year. And I talked about that before. So if you ever want to catch up with me, I'm willing to discuss all this with you again. But this book was great. So I still have a copy of this book, believe it or not. I read it, I revisit it from time to time. In fact, I have several different copies of his book, and I enjoy them, different types, because he covers entrepreneurship from so many angles, and he's such a wonderful storyteller that he just sort of brings you into the story, and before you know it, you've learned so much. So I'll recommend that you get it. And if you look online, because it's an old book, it's literally online for $1 something or $3 and something plus shipping. Just Google it. But so let me get back to success potholes number 2. Number 2 is the lack of consistency in how transactions are handled. That is your other pothole. There's no consistency in what you do. So I'm going to give you an example using a friend of mine who worked for a major clothing store. When they got there every day, she knew exactly what she had to do. There was a routine. She was the manager. She had employees. They had a routine. They know exactly what they had to do each and every day. It never changed. You had to check the cash flow. Make sure the money left there is still there. You had to look at inventory. Did anything new come in that we had to put in flow? On the floor. They measured the number of employees that was coming. They measured the number of sales they were making. And if by noon the sales was low, they would find a way to they will have a discount. They'll have a quick sale. And then they will go outside in front of the store and they will show people what they're wearing. I mean, the company went as far as allowed them to wear the clothes. They got to keep the clothes, so that they can showcase what the clothes look like on the average person rather than on the mannequin or the mannequin. So this was consistent. It was so consistent that it got to the point that she didn't even have to look to see what was there. She didn't have to check off the check sheet because it was routine. The routine is what I'm calling systemization. But it has to be written down. And the reason why you have to write it down, and I'm going ahead of myself, but the reason why you have to write it down is so that it can be done the same way every time. And whenever somebody is coming to work, they follow the same thing. So success pothole number 2 is not having systemization in place. When you have to spend so much time trying to figure out what you have to do next, it is not a good thing. It's a tragedy. We're going to talk about the goals. Okay, so we talked about potholes and we have goals, and there might be one more pothole, but I want to focus on systemization and actually rearrange this whole thing just so I can squeeze policies and procedures onto that systemization topic. So let me explain to you what systemization is in case you don't know. Systemization is just a system that you have established that allows you to conduct business, treat your clients, handle transaction, boost sales, expand and grow, create franchises, duplicate it, and no matter which address you go to, the service will be the same. The responses you're going to get are still going to be the same. That is systemization. There are 2 critical documents that you have to have in place in order to have a proper systemization template in place. And that is a policy document and a procedure document. There are 2 different things. Don't let anybody tell you that they're one, and you should never ever create a policy and procedure document. It should be a policy document and it should be a procedure document. A policy document provides guidelines. It provides the rules and the regulations that you're supposed to follow. Each employee is supposed to follow. The policies that are established by the company's owner, human resource, or whoever they pay to do it so that their business can be better, should be a reflection of the owner's values. We haven't talked about values, but values, the owner's values must be spoken. It must be shared to the employees. What is important to the employees? So that besides speaking it, you have to put it in writing, and that is the policy document that you create. Now, you don't create one policy document because it's not a one size fit all. A policy document has to be created for every major action within an organization. And now I have a policy document further on, so I'm not going to tell you what's on it. We're just going to look at it. Another document that you must have is a procedure. A procedure document should be written so well that anyone could come in there, open it, read the first line. Step 1, log into your computer. Step 2, enter password. Step 3, go to this folder to find this file. Open it up. What am I supposed to do with the file? You will open up another file and you'll copy data from this file and put it into the other file. That is what procedures is like. A procedure statement must be written so well that if your best employee left today, just walked out on you, you can open the door, hire the first person you see and say, I'm going to hire you temporary. Can you follow instructions? Yes. Okay, sit here, follow these instructions. It is the ultimate fake it till you make it method. Okay, and this is the one fake it till you make it method that must be implemented because it creates consistency, it creates it makes your business look good, and it helps you get up and running in less than no time. I'm sure many of you have heard that one of the highest expense a company has is due to employee turnover. You're hiring, they quit on you. You hire again, they quit on you. That's because they're confused. You have no policies, you have not established your value system, there's no ethics involved, and the procedures, they don't know what to do. They get tired of trying to figure it out. So before you fire them, they're going to leave on you. Okay? Policies and procedures are very instrumental into your business. So I know most of you can't see, but this is just a side-by-side comparison of a policy versus procedure. So I'm going to read through it briefly. On the policy side, this policy is about sexual harassment. They gave it a title. They gave it a number. They say it's a HR 1020. So in the HR office, this policy has an identification number. It's called HR 1020. The policy says the company is committed to providing a workplace free from sexual harassment and as such prohibits the sexual harassment of discrimination based on sex. Then it tells you, okay, let me stop right there. The policy is literally one line. The policy says, hey, we're not going to have any workplace sexual harassment, and we're prohibiting it based upon the sex of any employee. Don't matter male or female, we're prohibiting it. Then it gives you the purpose. Purpose tells you why they are implementing this policy. The purpose is that in accordance with the guidelines issued by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on discrimination because of sex, sexual harassment of employees is prohibited. And it goes on and tell you what it tells you literally, we are instituting this policy because Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on discrimination based upon sex is not going to be allowed, and this is the agency that says it's not going to be allowed. The scope is, who does this apply to? And in this particular case, it says that all employees, it don't matter who you are, this policy applies to you. Who's responsible for managing it? Who's responsible for being the watchdog of it? Who's responsible for making sure that this policy is implemented? In a situation like this, everybody, individually and collectively. That means if I see sexual harassment taking place, I need to report it. If we all see it taking place, we need to report it. None of us have the right to be silent. And then it defines what sexual harassment is, because everybody have different definitions of sexual harassment. Not everybody's too clear on it, and not everybody's okay at the top. So you have to define what does constitute sexual harassment. Is sexual harassment that I pass by the printer every morning and say hi to you? Or is sexual harassment that I tell you things that let you know for a fact that I am either insinuating or coming on to you? So that's that definition of this policy and what is sexual harassment. That's what it is. Now on the procedure side, you have this particular one covers invoicing and accounts receivable. But I'm going to make this procedure relating to this policy. So the procedure would have the document ID of HR 1020. That tells me that this procedure applies to this policy. The title will be sexual harassment. The date that I printed it or posted it is provided. The date that I prepared it is provided. When I renewed it, because you have to renew your policies and procedures every year. It's a yearly thing, unless a regulation says it has to be renewed 2-3 years. And then you have to, whoever approves it has to sign, and then you have to put a date there as well. So the policy is going to refer to the policy. It's going to say the same thing the policy says in the policy statement. The company is committed to providing a workplace free from sexual harassment. It's going to say that. It's going to say the purpose. It's going to provide the scope. Then it's going to tell you 1.0. Here is how you report it. You have to go to get this form. That's 1.1. Go to HR and pick up a form, or go to the website and get a form. 1.2 would say complete step 1, 2, 3. 1.3 would say take the form to a reviewer, and step 4, 5, 6 would say what the reviewer should do. That is what the procedure says. So I, as an individual, if I had never even looked at this sexual harassment policy, this is my first day on the job. If someone comes to me and tells me that they've been sexually harassed, I can go to the policy documents, pull it, look at it, and begin taking immediate actions. So I hope you understand what policy and procedure is. And I provided you with a link. Now, I provided you with this link, not because, again, I'm not associated with it and I don't get any kickbacks. But some people need a little bit more help than others. And the reason why I provided you with this link is because I love the definitions that he provides on the stage. On the first page of the website. Now, whatever you do with the rest of it is up to you. Again, this is not me promoting anything. I just wanted you to be able to go in and look at the definitions and the details that he has provided, or he or she has provided, about how to write proper policies and procedures. Now, please understand, nothing I give you and I say you means that you as the owner needs to do it. I'm saying you because you as the owner need to understand what is supposed to take place, understand what it's supposed to look like when it's done, and know how to delegate. And delegate don't necessarily mean giving it to your employer. It also means delegating it and giving it to a contractor, professional, someone who provides professional services. And as we covered last week, when someone provides professional services and self-employed, you really can't tell them step by step how to do the job. You have to tell them this is the outcome. What I'm providing you is a visual and an explanation, an example of what it's supposed to look like, so that when that person provides you with the work that they completed, you can look at it and say, it doesn't look good. I don't like it. I cannot accept it. It's not in agreement with what it's not complying with what we agreed to, and I'd like you to do it over. And if that person cannot give it a finished product, at least you know what it's supposed to look like. So you can say here, you're in default of our agreement. I can't do it. I got to walk away. So that's why I'm providing you with these examples, so you can know what it is. And again, I'm not giving you the owner the work to do. You have to delegate. You have to offload some stuff, because one of the reasons why you started a business was because you had a bright idea, and you cannot kill that idea because you want to be a jack of all trade or Jackie of all trade and do everything that has to be done in your business. So the goal is for you to work on your business, not in your business. I think you understand what I'm saying. But in case you don't, working on your business is high level. It's the same things we've been talking about. Working on your business, just what I just said. I didn't expect you to go create those procedure documents. When I worked in a large company, it was a Sarbanes-Oxley requirement, and I had to do those documents for the company, for that division. I was working in their business. I was the staff. Not at one point in time did the CEO, as much as he said hi every time he rounded the corner around 6 o'clock if I was there late, not one time has he ever asked me, do I need help with my business? I'm sorry, with my work. Not one time. So that's the difference between working on your business and in your business. You delegate and you're expecting to get it done. So here are the 6 steps. Conceptualize how you want your business to function. KIM means keep in mind. Keep in mind that the entire process, the way you do business, is a marketing statement. That's why systemization is important. When you go to McDonald's, what do you expect to hear? You expect to hear, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please? I don't care what language it's said in. I don't care where you go to. I can go to New York. I can go to the Caribbean. I can go to Africa. I can go to Japan. Wherever there is a McDonald's, they're gonna tell me, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please? That is systemization. The business is the product. Okay. The business is the product of your idea, your innovation. So if your business is not being represented properly, you are losing the product. You're losing the customer who comes to get the product. The product is just not what you sell. It's the whole experience of being in your store. When you go, that's what it is. When you go to Bath and Body Works, when it was there, you look forward to the smell. You want to sniff it. You want to wash your hands. Your business is the product. Be innovative. Constantly review your SWOT analysis. It's going to change. It's not cement. It has to change. And the reason why it has to change, environment change, people needs change, demands change, money change, all these different things, demographic change. Demographics are always changing in the community. So you always have to look at the SWOT analysis. Companies around you go out of business. What were they providing that everybody liked? Maybe you need to pick up the slack so that they don't find somebody else to provide it about 10 miles away. Be consistent in everything. Create a script if you have to. When a person comes in, they're supposed to know that script by heart. Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order, please? That's a script. They have to learn that in hamburger school, okay? They have to learn it. And hamburger school is there for a reason. Y'all may laugh at McDonald's University, but it's there for a reason, because McDonald's is one place you can go and find the same bread and the same hamburger patty with the sesame seed bun. You know what you're going to get. And that's why when a lot of you travel, you don't try anything else. You find a McDonald's, a KFC, a Chick-fil-A, Popeye, something that you're familiar with, because you want to know you're going to get the same type of food that you're accustomed to. And that's what it is with your business. You have to give people what they are accustomed to, or what you have established over and over and over again. So let's talk about the goal of your business when you employ people. When you employ people, you have to train them and you have to empower them. Do you remember me talking about the policy document? The policies and procedures are created so that you can empower your employees to take action. So I'm going to give an example. I was working at a large telecommunication firm, and I handled their billing. I was very much into the billing. And so we had done a huge major shift. We have changed product line, we've changed computer system, we changed the way how we categorize, we assigned GLs differently. We did a whole change. And at the end of everything, we didn't have, this was before the Sarbanes-Oxley period, right? So we didn't have everything. So I'm responsible. If anything goes wrong with the billing, everybody's calling me. And so every time they call me, I can't make a decision. So I go to at that time, he was the office manager. And I go and let him know. I said, I need to, this guy called about a credit. And he said, a credit? He said, how much was the value? And I said, it's only $25. He said, did you give it to him? I said, no. He said, why didn't you give it to him? I said, well, I don't have a policy for that. And he said, you don't have a policy for that? You shouldn't have to ask me to give $25 back. You should be able to make that decision. That gentleman went, he wrote a policy up, he took it to the VP, they signed it, he brought me back a copy. I could make a $25 credit after that. I mean, it was more than just $25. But the point I'm trying to make, he empowered me to so that I can give proper customer service to the people we are serving, not have them wait weeks or months just to get a $25 credit. That's what it has to be in your business. You have to give your employee a limit. Okay, this is how much credit that you can give without coming to me directly. In some cases, I've seen where you have a manager and another employee have to sign off on the credit so that they're both in agreement. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes employees do come together and join up and agree to do wrong. But when you take them to court, that's what those policies and procedure do. When you take them to court, they have to abide by those policies and procedure. Those policies and procedure is going to dictate whether or not they did something wrong. And more times than not, an employee takes an employer to court quicker than an employer takes an employee to court. And when an employee takes an employee to court, the employer ends up paying more. So you need to have these policies and procedures in place to protect your business, to protect the stability of your business. Another goal is to mind your own business. When I say mind your own business, I really mean mind your own business. We talked about it before. Trend analysis, quantifying, understanding the metrics. You need to mind your business daily as the manager. If you don't have an accountant and bookkeeper in-house, while your manager is out there as the owner of the business, you're supposed to be looking at the numbers. In time, you're going to train a manager to look at those numbers because that will no longer be your duty. They're going to be trained to look at those numbers. You're going to give them numbers. They're going to look at them. You're going to assess whether or not, and they're going to assess and tell you what happened during that period of time. So if your sales drop drastically on a day that it's not supposed to drop, the question is why? Hey, why did your sales drop? Well, like 70%, what happened? It could be that they're working on the road in front of your business. You have not adjusted for that factor. So those are the things that I'm talking about when I say mind your own business. If you pay attention to what's happening, if you create these metrics and you're looking at them constantly, you can adjust. So for instance, Hard Rock Cafe. Just suppose that there was a really hot restaurant. There's a really good restaurant right there and the food is delicious. However, Hard Rock Cafe the restaurant is close to Hard Rock Cafe, which is in a hazardous area. So the company has one or two choices. They can shut down or they can just wait for stragglers to come along. Well, if you're minding their own business, what they would do is go along and say, hey, to every company, say, hey, we are delivering. You send us our order. It may mean that they have to take it by phone. You may have 5 people taking orders and another 10 people delivering. Your overhead may go up. In this case, it's a direct cost because it's a restaurant. But your cost may go up, but your revenue is still going to come in. And that's what you want to do. So when you mind your business, you're able to react to the things that are happening around you so that you can continue to provide value for your customers. Let me give you a real life example. When COVID came and everything kind of shut down in the city, I had to go into the city one day and I'm driving down Canal Street, and what did I see? Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was in front of 365 Canal Street and they had all their hot bags and they were serving food, and you should have seen that line. That is called adjusting to the conditions and minding your own business, because now they were able to take advantage of a weak point. There's no Chick-fil-A down there, but they were able to take advantage of a weak point where there was no food and capitalize on that by putting themselves in a position where they could provide food to people who really needed the food. So mind your own business. That is the goal of everything. Work on your business. The tools that you're receiving, again, I said it to you, it's not intended for you to take on one more job. It's important so that I'm giving you these tools so that you can implement them in your business strategic response, your business strategic plans. I'm giving you these tools so that you can protect yourself from lawsuits and from having employees suing you because somebody else was harassing and they didn't feel as though you took the right steps to stop it. I'm giving you these tools so that you can know what to expect from the person that you hire. A lot of times you hire but you don't train. So I'm saying to you, make training a high priority. Put things in on paper. Give them something that they can go to. Because another problem that a lot of employees have after you finish training them is that they're scared to come and ask you to repeat yourself. And so if you give them the procedure notice, they don't have to sit there for about 2 hours trying to figure it out rather than come and ask you for help. That's another reason why I'm giving you this information. Seek assistance. Go and get somebody, find somebody who can help you build these systems, okay? Who can help you write them? Who can help you implement them? Who can help you to train your employees? Again, as an owner, you're supposed to be working on your business, not in your business. You're supposed to be minding your business. And so in order for you to mind your business, work on it and not in it, you have to apply these principles. I kid you not. If you want your business to grow without having investors come in and give you all this money, you really have to implement these strategies that I'm providing. My challenge to you today, guys, is to eclipse the competition. That's what I want you to do. Eclipse the competition. If you can eclipse the competition, you are going to go very far. That's my challenge to you. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this last and final session. And I really would like to hear from you whether or not this session has been beneficial to you. The packages for the handout will be sent out sometime this week. But if you need to contact me by phone, my number is 312-292-7546. Again, my name is Benita Benter-Rice. My number is 312-292-7546. You can shoot a text message to that number as well if you just want to shoot a text message and get your answers. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.